Hey all, it's Joseph. I know I usually reserve this time for an intro sketch, but today I want to talk about something important. Please don't skip this, but even if you do, you're only making it to a video about speed duels faster, so what's your rush? I want to talk about YouTube. So for those of you that don't know, YouTube's new Terms of Service agreement goes into effect January 1st, and in it is a particularly distressing stipulation that says that if YouTube finds your channel to be economically unviable, they reserve the right to delete it. Now, this is problematic for a couple of reasons. Firstly, I think YouTube has the ability, the very unique ability, to provide a public service to humankind, a hosting site for videos that would otherwise not see the light of day. And secondly, I think that it ties into a larger discussion about demonetization. The channels that will be most impacted by this are the LGBTQ content creators whose videos are already shunned by the algorithm. As a result, I'll be participating in YouTube Walkout for the next 4 days until the end of the week. I will not be uploading anything, and I will be doing my part to watch as little YouTube as possible. I urge you to do the same. There are links in the description about the movement, etc. Until then, enjoy this 10-minute testing. I'll be back at the end of the week with another TMT and a Locals Live.
Hey everybody, Joseph Rothschild here, aka MBT, back again with another episode of 10-Minute Testing. As any self-respecting fan of the Speed Lords podcast, which I co-host of course, knows, a new Speed Duel pack has just been released. You know, all those fans of the Speed Lord podcast. Anyway, the new pack, Trials of the Kingdom, is out, and alongside some Speed Duel release day skills, it's going to truly evolve the metagame. That pun will make sense in a second. Let's take a look at Flint Lock, Moth Warrior, and Ritual Gravekeepers. Before we get into the individual lists, however, this video is sponsored by Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck. If you're interested in speed dueling, but don't have the time to click through 400 fandom links to find out what's legal, Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck is one of the very few places online with an updated spoiler of format legal cards. It's the perfect place to build decks, upload brews, and read strategy articles, and I couldn't be happier to stand them. There comes a point in every format, Restructor Burn in Duel Links, Empty Jar in Goats, the entire years of 2017 and 2018 in the TCG, in which an uninteractive, problematic deck creeps to the top of the tier list. I'm happy to report that a few new releases may have finally introduced such a deck into Speed Duels. We made it, guys! Flint Lock, as I've been calling it, doesn't actually play its namesake monster. Rather, it takes advantage of the extremely low amount of spell and trap removal in the format to load up on cards that prevent individual monsters from attacking. Since most decks don't have a way to tribute out of their own field-clogging friends, you've only got to draw 3 of these before you can use a skill like Viral Infection or an equip spell like Mask of the Accursed to end the game at a glacial pace. Let's check out the card by card. We're on 3 Amazona Swordswoman, who can repeatedly ram into dinguses in defense after a floodgate, 3 Gentlemander for a secondary lock if they out all of your spells, 3 Flint, 3 Mask of the Accursed, 3 Floodgate Trap Hole, and 3 Spellbinding Circle, all of which do the same thing, 1 Waking the Dragon. It only has to proc once before they fear the blind MST, and 1 copy of Jar of Avarice so they don't deck you first. In the extra, we're on a suite of every potentially relevant waking target in the format. Let's jump in a game. Our match is up against arguably the most aggro deck in the format, Dinosaur. This will be a true test of if our deck is able to prevent our opponents from punching our face in. We're going second, which is fantastic news for us. Even though Floodgate Trap Hole is in the format, I still recommend fiending for the extra card. Our hand is really good and contains an exceptionally cheesy Waking the Dragon. Our opponent will set the field spell, normal summon a copy of Kabazulis, and then set a couple of cards before passing it back to us. We'll lead with a Mask of the Accursed and 2 cards set. On our opponent's turn, they'll normal summon a copy of Twin-Headed King Rex, which of course will fall victim to our Floodgate. Now we only need to lock 1 more zone. We're going to activate Viral Infection to get the beats going, set 1 card, and pass it back. Our opponent has no response, so we're able to continue milling traps. They normal summon a Kabazulis, but we have a Spellbinding Circle set. The game should be locked up here. We whiff on traps and start calling spells, and our opponent quits. While that probably satisfied your daily requirement of dairy, this next deck is for the lactose intolerant among you. Blade Knight was already a candidate for best deck, and the release of a Windmill Slam of a Warrior and a Skill to Slaughter Serpent Knight is likely enough to cement its position at the top of Tier 1. Cocoon of Ultra Evolution allows you to tribute an opponent's monster with Parasite Paranoid, then summon a perfectly ultimate grade Moth from your deck. Importantly, Champion's Vigilance is on at no point during this combo, so you're able to beat your opponent's face in without interaction. Couple that with Dawn Zalug, a monster with 2 good effects in a format full of 20-card decks, and you've likely discovered the deck to beat in the upcoming format. Let's check out the card by card. We're on 3 Blade Knight, 3 Command Knight, and 3 Dawn Zalug, followed by a Parasite package of 3 Noid and 1 Perfectly Ultimate. Don't worry if you draw it, you can proc Parasite's effect and tribute it for another one from deck for the same result. Trap cards are a little harder to place, but I'm playing 2 Tornado, 2 Floodgate, and 3 Windstorm of Ataqua. The extra here is all the vanillas in the format, but only to put the fear of waking in your opponent's heart. Let's jump in a game. Our match is up against Scourge of the format and favorite deck of my problematic roommate, Serpent Knight Dragon. We're going second, which is good news, but of course our opponent wants to set up, so it's not fantastic. Let's see what we scrape off the top of our deck, and oof, this is a stinker of a hand. You don't want to see too many monsters in your Blade Knight deck, and Double Dawn Zalug means that we're going to need to spend at least 2 turns getting them out of our grip. Our opponent's going to lead with a Go Onizuka play, Brain Hack, Level Max, and set 1 card. They'll pass it back, and I am 100% sure that card is Blue Dragon Summoner, but what am I going to do, not attack it? We're going to set 1 card and normal summon a Dawn Zalug, another normal summonable monster off the top. Sheesh. Okay, let's attack, and unfortunately, our worst fears are confirmed. It is Blue Dragon Summoner, and as a result, we'll enable a Serpent Knight Dragon into our opponent's hand. As long as they don't have Tribute Doll, I'm fine. Which, of course, they do. So they'll set a copy of Sphere Karibo, activate Tribute Doll, and go to Serpent Knight Dragon. Now, provided Nightmare Sonic Blast doesn't find, I don't know, exactly 3 monsters and a Champion's Vigilance, we are still very much in this game. Unfortunately, it finds exactly 3 monsters and Champion's Vigilance. They'll go ahead and set it, but this displays the power of Parasite Paranoid. They can't stop any of this. We'll activate Parasite Cocoon of Evolution to go to Perfectly Ultimate Great Moth before normal summoning a copy of Blade Knight and attacking, getting 2 hand traps out of our opponent's hand, and leaving them nothing to work with. They'll draw for turn, we'll switch our monsters back to attack position, they'll summon a Gentlemander, but it's not enough. We will be able to win, but not before we mill them for 2 with Dawn Zalug. And finally, what looks to be our first meta mash since Tribal Synergy, Gravekeepers and Relinquished are 2 decks longing for a home. The former has enjoyed a rich and storied generation of playability, but as we continue to gather good enough generic playables, their tribal payoffs have looked less and less alluring. The latter was previously quite powerful, but now that monster removal has made its way into the format, there's not much to say about a high-investment rapscallion with trouble closing games alongside his crew of 1,400 attack recruiters. He's doing his best, okay? However, by weaponizing a skill meant to sit in bulk, Ritual Ceremony, we can rethink Relinquished not as the core of a deck, but as a removal spell. Theoretically, the Gravekeepers can be the aggro half of the deck, and when the going gets tough, what better blowout than Speed Duel's favorite sucker? This core also provides a home for Wayward Spherix, now that Serpent has to contend with Cocoon. Let's check out the card by card. We're on the non-negotiable GKs, 3 Ambusher, 3 Recruiter, fantastic backup Relinquished fodder, and 1 Oracle. We're also on 3 Spheric, good in both control decks and alongside Relinquished, followed by 3 of our problematic fave and 1 of his rituals. For traps, we're on 3 Dust Tornado, both to refresh Relinquished and pop Parasite, and 3 Rite of Spirit. Let's jump in a game. Our match is up against the spookiest deck in Speed Duels, Skull Servants. If nothing else, it's thematic that I'm playing Gravekeepers against these Graveyard Ghouls. We're going second, which is fantastic news, but unfortunately the ability to set something like a Goblin Zombie is sort of unparalleled in this hybrid control aggro deck. Our opponent will lead with, you guessed it, Servant of the Fallen King, setting a copy of Skull Servant from their deck to the graveyard. Luckily for us, they've drawn 1 of their Skull Servants, which means that 1 of the cards in their hand is a brick. Our hand is similarly bricky. We aren't going to be able to use Ritual Ceremony this game because we've drawn both halves of Relinquished. Garnets, even in this format. We'll set a couple copies of Rite of Spirit before our Ambusher gets in. It's not going to have much to contend with because Skull Servant is not a very strong monster, but beware, he can be very troublesome in large numbers. We'll pass it back to our opponent, who, of course, will activate the effect of Servant of the Fallen King again to send a Skull Servant from their deck to the graveyard. They now have all 3, and King of the Skull Servants is going to be at a healthy 3,000 attack points. That's much worse when they Mask of the Accursed Our Monster, and normal summon a King of the Skull Servants. They're going to aim for a stall game here. Likely we don't have anything that we can tribute over our Gravekeeper's Ambusher, and a 3,000 attack point monster is nothing to contend with. They're going to go ahead and normal summon the king himself, long live he, and thankfully we do kind of have an out. Not only do we have a way to get Mask of the Accursed off our side of the field, we have a way to take our opponent's monster in the process. Relinquished, coming in clutch. I don't think I'm going to spend the Sphere Karibo on it. I really do not want to take burn damage this game, and it enables a couple of Rite of Spirits as well. We'll attack directly, our opponent will activate Windstorm, and we'll get in for 17 while we can. Things are looking very good for us. Our opponent is very far down on resources. We'll go into Oracle and pop our opponent's set card. Unfortunately, it is a Zombina, so they get a Skull Servant back, but we have choked them off of King of the Skull Servants at the graveyard, one of the easiest ways to beat them. They will Haunted Shrine back Zombina, they'll get back Skull Servant, but it only protects them for one additional turn, and they'll concede. So that's that. I certainly hope this isn't the last set of Speed Duels, because for the first time, the format actually looks promising. Thanks to my patrons Tyler Slacks, Crispy, Sir Tachyon, Miko Reichman, Distrin, Picnic Blastit, Lucas Geardis, Adam Trevino, 2nd, Lieutenant Labcoat, Fighting Fang Wong, Meatmoto27, Burrito Man 93, Adrian Bra, Adam Sundquist, Isaac Jackson, Donnie Fillerup, and others. If you like my videos, please consider subscribing, and if you want to be part of the deck building process, consider following me on Twitch as well. I'll see you next time.